So yeah, I appear to have given up on basic hygiene completely. But anyway, I wanted to do a follow-up to the follow-up of the video I did about the whole weight room progressions and reps and percentages, because I keep talking about the difficulty in progressing small movements, usually dumbbells, but there are a couple that I actually didn't mention. A lot of gyms have like those fixed barbells, and they almost always jump in 10-pound jumps. So it'll be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, like, which is even worse, right? At least dumbbells typically move up in, usually it's smaller weight increments in very small, again, American poundage. You know, you'll be 3, 5, 8, 10, 12, 15, 17 and a half. Your gym is really well equipped. 20, maybe 22.5. Then it's 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. And on barbell movements, most gyms in America have 2.5 pounds as the smallest per side increment, and over in metric land, that should be 1.25 kilos, but I'm also told that some gyms only have 2.5. So depending on the exercise and what you're lifting, that can be a staggering percentage of what's on the bar. And it makes it damn near impossible to progress within, especially a double progression, right? Because say you use 8 to 12, or you're adding reps, whatever it is, or that is adding reps, and you gain 4 reps, and that's 8 to 12%. Well, if that weight increment is more than that, and it often is, then you're fucked. Like adding weight to that, especially in movements like a lateral raise or dumbbell curl, where when you do make those jumps, you go from these like 12 perfect reps to a shit show set. Lateral raises are the worst. Dumbbell lateral raises, which is why I almost never use them if I've got access to a machine or cables. Goes from these 12 perfect reps to just shit. And that's assuming your technique isn't shit to begin with. Anyway, I want to outline sort of, I'll redress the problem and then look at some approaches, how to progress these movements over time, and some equipment-based solutions, and then progression-based in terms of reps and sets, and what I've talked about in those previous 2 videos. All right, let's get to it. So like I said in the overlong introduction, the basic issue is that the weight increments that are available in many cases are such a large percentage of what's on the bar, depending on what's on the bar, depending on what you're doing, that it can make progressing them in any meaningful fashion very difficult. And this is true whether you're doing a single progression or a double progression. Like I said, I don't really use triple progressions. So as an example, again, going back, like I said, Ugly American, we generally have 2.5 pounds plates that can go on either side of the bar. So let's look at what that might represent as a percentage relative to some different squat poundages. So pretty basic stuff here. You know, if you've got a minimum of 5-pound jumps, if you're squatting 50 pounds, it's 10% of what's on the bar, but a beginner who's squatting that will be making much faster gains. At 100 pounds, 5 pounds is 5%, drops to 2.2% at 225, 1.5% at 315. And if you're squatting more than that, you're probably not watching my videos in the first place. But you can see the point of that, which is that for bigger movements where you've got more weight on the bar, even that 5-pound minimum is usually achievable, because it's just never, it's always less than that 2 to 3%. Which I threw out per repetition. So if you've put 2 reps on the bar, or your reps in reserve has dropped by 1 if you're doing a single progression, and you gain that 2 or 3%, that should be doable. Now for smaller muscle barbell exercises, like a barbell curl, things of that nature where the weights are a lot lower, that 5-pound jump may be too much. Right? If you're doing a 50 barbell curl with 50 pounds or even 60 pounds, a 5-pound jump is still like 7.5 to 10%. And that can be a lot more difficult to make that jump and maintain good form. And I'll talk about practical stuff here shortly. And then with dumbbell movements for small muscle groups, it gets even stupider for reasons that I already explained. You know, if you're curling 25 pounds per hand, that 5-pound jump is absolutely enormous. So, and lateral raises are even worse. So here's the way that works out. Right, so if you're using 20 pounds per hand in a dumbbell exercise, adding 5 pounds is 25%, which is equivalent of adding 10 to 12 repetitions. At 50 pounds, it's still 10%, 5 to 6 equivalent repetitions. Assuming you're doing 100 pounds per hand, in which case you're not watching this video, 5 pounds is still 5%. It's still really, really, really big comparatively speaking. And like I said, when you make those weight jumps, either you just drop a ton of reps, assuming you can do any, or your technique just goes to shit. So let's look at some ways of getting around this or progressing these movements meaningfully over time. So first, let me look at solutions that involve equipment. If you're talking about barbell movements, the one approach, and this is only for barbell movements, is to use microplates. So this is a full microplate set, and the gray ones are 0.25 pounds. The blue ones are half a pound apiece. The red ones are a very odd 0.75 pounds, and the black ones are a pound apiece. And these are very similar to the change plates that they use in Olympic lifting and powerlifting for records, but these are pounds because I'm an ugly American. So since you're putting one on each side, double it up, right? So if you put just one gray on each side, that adds half a pound to the bar. But for someone who's only curling 20, 30, 40, or even 50 pounds, that may be necessary. A few years ago, Sumi didn't have a powerlifting meetups, and there was a strict curl in town, so I trained her for strict curl. And on that movement especially, frequently adding a mere half pound to the bar was the difference between making a rep and not making a rep. So I made extensive use of those. If you add the two blue plates, that's a pound in total. The red ones are 0.75, is 1.5 total, and then the black ones are a pound. And you can mix and match, right? To get combinations. So if our standard weight jump in an American gym is 2.5 per side for 5 pounds total, if I use a black plate and a gray plate, that's 1.25 pounds per side for 2.5 pounds total. Let me check my math. That's half as much. And typically or frequently with my power lifter on bench press, even though she was very strong, I would, as she got closer to her max, I would rarely add more than 1.25 to each side of the bar for a 2.5 pound increase, rather than having to go up 2.5 pounds per side. So I put a black and a gray one for 1.25 each side and let her make smaller jumps. Now, I also trained her daughter, who is only benching 90 pounds. So it's very rare. Frequently, I will use the halves. For bigger movements, not a big issue. For Sumi, she was squatting 225. I never had to use the microplates for that. I think I used them once on deadlifts early in her career just to get her a tiny PR. But those can be good for barbell movements. Although let me note, if you're in a commercial gym, these have a real problem because people don't seem to realize that the plates in the average commercial gym can have a lot of variance. Right? If you ever get bored, grab a bunch of the 45-pound plates, 20 kilos for the communists, and weigh them out. And they can be off by 2 pounds in either direction, like 43 to 47, unless you have access to an Alico set or a really high-level powerlifting set. And the problem that comes up is the weight that you're adding via the microplates may be smaller than the variance in the plates. If you train at home, this isn't an issue. Weigh out your fucking plates and use the same ones. When I trained Sumi at a commercial gym, I actually found 245s, weighed them out, and then marked them with whiteout. And I would grab those for her workout, so I knew that we were actually making gains. And then when I started training her at a home gym, it became a non-issue. So those are great. Also, if you're in a commercial gym, you got to drag them with you as part of your gear kit. So they may have less use, like I said, in a commercial gym setting because of the difference. Before moving on, if you have, some sort of exercise machine, whether it's at the gym, although you probably like at your home where you do load individual plates on it, microplates can be useful if you're doing those small movement exercises. For example, so we have the Titan Functional Trainer at my powerlifter's home gym where we put plates on each side, and we can actually use the microplates to add small amounts, like she does the cable lateral raise, and frequently we will add 1.25 to each side to get very small jumps. Enough with the microplates. Moving on. So next up are the plate mates, which are these little magnetic discs that stick to the side of dumbbells, and they're 1.25 pounds a piece. So that gives you a 2.5 pound jump between weights. So rather than go from 20 to 25 or 30 to 35, you can do 32.5 in the middle. Although on some movements, you can actually just put one on, depending on what you're doing, and get a 1 1/4 pound jump. These are okay, and we have a set in Sumi's gym, of course. We have everything. They do have some problems. One, they're pricey for what they are. And of course, you have to get 2 sets if it's for dumbbell movements, which makes them even more expensive. 2, they only work with steel dumbbells. You have rubber-coated dumbbells, they will not stick. 3, they very often fall off during the exercise. If you bump into anything, or if you just like do a fast eccentric and hit bottom, they tend to fall off. If you ever do an overhead tricep extension, the old French press with a dumbbell on the end, invariably it'll fall off and conk you in the head. I'm reasonably sure you could make a DIY version if you went and got like a bunch of heavy washers at a hardware store and glued some strong magnets to it, but they are workable, but I don't know that they're the best anymore. And again, if you train at a commercial gym, it's just more shit for you to drag to the gym. Next up are these weight clips, and this is fairly new, and I have not used them, but I like the design, right? Basically, they snap inside the dumbbell, letting you add 1 1/4 pounds to each side. And you can technically only use one to get an even smaller jump if you want. We've done that actually with the Playmates. Like I said, haven't used these, but it is a cool design, probably better overall than the Playmates, if I had to take a guess. Again, not having used them, I don't have a lot to offer other than they're pretty damn expensive at this point. And obviously, like with the Playmates, you got to have 2 sets. So it gets expensive quickly. Good tool. We didn't need them, so I never bought a set for Sumi's home gym. But get them, and it's just more shit to drag to the commercial gym if that's where you train. And a final option, this is again something we did with Sumi, was we got some adjustable wrist weights. They have little bags of sand that you can put in and out that let you actually increment from 1 to 5 pounds, which really facilitated incrementing certain movements. This is her, I want to say, dumbbell pressing 60 in each hand. So that was an option I had to really use gradual increments. And once again, we have the problem, it's more shit to drag to the gym if you don't train at home. This does work really well, like I said, and if you get the better ones, they've got these sandbags that you pull out so you can go very slowly. You could probably use these for barbell. I don't think we ever did. It was more for dumbbell stuff because we had the microplate. Some pedant will talk about how if you use them for a lateral raise, biomechanics isn't quite right because they're closer to the joint than the dumbbells themselves, and please, y'all just get fucked. Yeah, it is, but it doesn't change the fact that on a 20-pound lateral raise, you can add 1 pound per side and build up very, very gradually. For completeness, I should probably mention on how to increment plate stack exercises, because they are often as big of a problem, against cable crossovers, push downs, cable pullovers, cable curls, where frequently the stack jumps, and even on some other machines, right, like plate-loaded chest press, or plate-stacked chest press, rather, can often have these really enormous jumps. And while some newer machines do have their own little slidey plates, not all of them do. And you frequently get into these issues where, like, the machines at my gym go, like, 10, 20, 30, 40, up to 100, then it's 115, 130, 145. And these get to be rather enormous jumps. So if you don't have a machine that has some have a little knob that lets you add 2.5 pound increments between tens, some have little 5 pound things that slide down, you sometimes have to get creative. And here are 3 different ways that you can sometimes microload pin-based plate stacks. So one solution is just to put a damn dumbbell up on top. That's 5 pound. It's halfway in between the 10 pound jumps. You can use even smaller dumbbells if you need to. And you can get creative sometimes and put one on each side. Some machines won't allow this, like plate stack machines that are sort of enclosed in metal, so like all you can really see is the pin. You won't be able to stick a plate on top. So this isn't universally applicable, but it can be used on a lot of machines. If you already have Playmates, you can stick them to the weight stack. Now, obviously here with only 2, that's a 2.5 pound jump. So if you had 4, you could do 5 and you could do any increment, or you could do 2.5 and then take those off, put a 5 pound dumbbell, 5 pound dumbbell plus those 2, then go up to 10. Our gym happened to have them. If your gym doesn't, then again, more gear to drag to the gym. And a final option is just to use the pin to hang a plate off the stack. Now, the way I've shown it on the right actually is wrong. You do have to have the plate 1/4 inch, a little bit out from the stack, or when you lower it, it will catch and fall off. But that's another option. with plates, you can do 2.5 really easily. You can do 5 pounds really easily. It's almost impossible to hang 7.5 pounds, a 5 and a 2.5, and have it stay on there. So frequently, you either have to make that 5-pound jump and suck it up, or you could stick a 2.5-pound dumbbell up on top along with the 5 sometimes, or plate mates, or sometimes you have to get creative, but it can be done. So that's the tech, and it can be useful. They each have their pros and cons. Cons typically are cost. The micro plates have the problem of frequently being smaller than the variance in the plate, and if you train in a commercial gym, it's just more shit to put in your training bag. So failing that, let's look at how you can do this in a training center to try to get some sort of meaningful progression when it's time to add weight. So training solutions. Now I've already mentioned one repeatedly, which is you may be in a situation where you have to build up the reps to a pretty large level, which may also still not be enough, right? Like let's say you're doing, sets of 10 to 12 on lateral raises with 20 pounds, and the next jump is 5 pounds, which is what, 25%? It's 20%. You would have to add 10 repetitions to get that 20 to 30% gain technically, assuming you even could, to maybe have a chance of making that weight jump, which is fine, and that's a way to do it, but it's boring. And like I said, not everyone is always able to add repetitions in that form or fashion. So, maybe you have to use a more moderate rep range of 10 to 15. At some point, you got to make the jump. What the fuck do you do? Well, here's how I suggest doing it. So failing, let's say you use a rep range. Let's say you build up from 10 to 15. That's just as far as you can go because you just cannot keep adding more reps. To progress that exercise, what you have to do is eventually you just got to touch that weight and you just got to make the jump, hope for the best, and then you progress from there. So I'm going to outline the way I like to do it. Okay, so let's assume that you're doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 in the lateral raise. You're currently using 25 pounds per hand, and the next weight jump is to 30, which is a 20% increase. Here's what you do. So step one, first you're going to build all 3 sets to 12 clean, high-quality repetitions. So if you can build higher, that's fine, but I'm just going to keep it simple and say you get 3 sets of 12, they're all perfect. Now it's time to go for it. So at the next workout, on the first set, you're going to go ahead and move up to 30 pounds. And you're just going to do your best. Get however many decent repetitions you can get. Now, I can't say how many will be. Maybe it'll be 3. Maybe it'll be 6. I don't know. The point is you get as many good repetitions as you can. After you finish however many reps you can get, you have 2 options. So option 1 is to simply stop the set right there. Rest, and you're going to finish the workout by doing 2 sets of 12 back down at the 25 pounds weight. So this way you've touched that new weight and gotten some number of repetitions, hopefully, but then you finish with the 2 sets at the lighter weight to get the volume to keep stimulating gains. So that's option 1. Now let's look at option 2. So with option 2, you do a drop set. So as soon as you finish that set with 30, however many reps, you drop immediately back to the 25 pounds and try to finish the set to 12 if you can get there. Then you do the second and third sets of 12 back at 25 pounds. Right, so option 2 lets you get that 10 to 12 repetitions on the first set by doing a drop set. And then you still finish the second and third sets at the previous weight to get the volume. So you've actually gotten 3 sets of 12. It's just some number of repetitions are with a heavier weight. Obviously, this requires that you can have both sets of dumbbells, but hey, people are shitheads in every gym and will have 3-4 sets of dumbbells at their bench because they're special and mom never taught them to share. So you can do it too. And then you can probably guess what step 3 is, which is now you're going to continue building set 1 at 30 pounds. Hopefully at each workout, you get a couple more repetitions, 4, 6, 8, and you still have those other 2 options, right? You can get 8 on the first set and stop. You can get 8 on the first set and drop back. You're still going to do the second and third set back at 25 pounds. And you can guess what's coming next. So once you get that first set at 30 by 10 to 12 clean, then you're going to do the second set at 30 pounds. And the same rules apply. Now, maybe on that second set, I don't think you'll drop as much. You've already established that you can do 30 for 12 good reps. So it's not like you're going to drop back to 4 to 6. But if you don't get 10, same options apply. Either stop the set, or you can drop set back to 25. In either case, You're going to continue in the third set at 25 by 12. And then you do the same thing, which is that once you get the first two sets of 30 by 12, you raise the third set and you build it up. And then when you get to 30 by 3 sets of 12, you do this shit again, which is on the first set, go to 35, get what you can do, either stop the set, do a drop set, second, third set at 30, you get it. Let me try to draw it up as a workout so you can kind of see how this might occur. And I'm going to assume that the person is just stopping the first set, no matter how many repetitions they get, mainly because I don't want to have to write it all up because I'm lazy, but the same thing applies. So here's what it looks like. So here's a made-up example. Workout 1, 25 by 3 by 12. Workout 2, 30 by 5 plus 25 by 2 by 12. Workout 3, 30 by 7 plus 25 by 2 by 12. So you build up over 2 workouts, find 30 by 12 by 25 by 2 by 12. So in workout 6, you get 30 by 12, then maybe you get 30 by 7 on the second set. Drop back, 25 by 12. 30 by 12, 30 by 9, 25 by 12, 30 by 12 by 2 by 12, blah, blah, blah. Eventually workout 9, 30 by 2 by 12. You move that final set up to 30, maybe you get 8, and keep going, do it again, try not to go fucking nuts from boredom. And that's basically it. I mean, I guess I should mention a third option for progressing small movements, which is say fuck it and not bother. Like, usually you're going to be doing these after some heavier compound, which will have more weight on the bar and will be easier to progress. Lots of times people just don't fucking worry about it and just lateral raises. You get your 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15. It's probably going to stay heavy enough for a really long period of time. And rather than going with this whole to-do, you just don't fuck with it. I mean, that won't work, you know, if you're trying to progress like a barbell curl that's a primary bicep movement, or a dumbbell curl, or you know, a lighter barbell tricep movement like a decline nose break or a skull crusher, or someone who's using a much lighter bench press, where it is a primary movement that's lighter and you have to either use tech or go through this whole to-do to get the weight up. A lighter barbell bench, but like for stuff like lateral raises and you know, the dumb isolation stuff, like a dumbbell fly or a pec deck or a cable crossover or whatever that you do to just get a volume and get some pump on before you go to the bar to try to impress people. Some people will just be like, fuck it. So that's what I got. When you're in this situation, if you've got access to some gear, you can use microplates, plate mates, those clip-on things, wrist weights, which all have their pros and cons, or you can use this really slow fucking progression where you eventually just jump the weight on the first set, do your best, get the volume, and just build it up over time. See you next time. For the record, I neither read nor respond to comments on YouTube or Instagram because I don't care. Mind you, I don't delete comments I don't like most of the weak-minded babies in this industry either. If you think my content is great and want to tell me how awesome I am, fantastic. If you think I'm a dumb asshole and want to call me names, also fantastic. I don't care either way because I have better things to do. If you have questions that you want me to potentially read and or respond to, or most likely ignore, send them to questions@bodyrecomposition.com. Might get to them, might not. It's part of my charm. Oh yeah, I recently added a playlist to my channel. My buddy Solomon Nelson, who does some fantastic videos taking down the cretins in this industry. So go give Solomon some love.